billionaire CEO, adopts twins, finds out they're his biological children with ex-wife. Welcome to a tale that transcends even the highest walls of power and privilege, a story of lost love, hidden identities, and fate's shocking surprises. Meet Sebastian Caldwell, a billionaire CEO whose soaring ambition once claimed everything he cherished, including his marriage. Now, in an unforeseen twist, he adopts twin children out of pure compassion, believing they come from a world far removed from his own. Little does he realize these two bright souls share more with him than he could ever imagine. They are his own flesh and blood from a past he thought he'd left behind. Prepare for heartbreak, betrayal, and a quest for redemption unlike any other. Sebastian Caldwell had risen from modest beginnings in a cramped suburban neighborhood to the summit of business success, a living testament to unwavering drive. By the age of 35, he'd built Caldwell Innovations, a conglomerate dealing in everything from biotech to renewable energy. In the process, Sebastian had grown into a household name lauded by Forbes, courted by politicians, praised at gatherings of the world's elite. Yet, for all his achievements, Sebastian discovered that even a towering empire of glass and steel could shatter in a moment. The day he signed his divorce papers from Natalia Caldwell felt like sliding a final heavy stone over the coffin of their love. Their marriage had once been ablaze with passion and promise. She had been the calming presence to his storm of ambition. They met in grad school. He was the star of finance lectures, and she was a rising star in art history. They balanced each other perfectly until they didn't. The beginning of the end was as subtle as a hairline fracture. Late nights at the office that turned into overnights, business trips that stretched into weeks, and missed anniversaries that became the norm. Sebastian had become a man consumed, convinced that success would compensate for every personal failing. Natalia, fiercely independent at first, gradually felt overshadowed, her own ambitions sidelined. By the time Sebastian realized how far they'd drifted, she was already filing the divorce petition. During the months of legal wrangling, something else transpired, something that Natalia kept to herself. She discovered she was pregnant. Torn by conflicting emotions, anger at Sebastian, fear of the future, and worry that a child would tie her irrevocably to a man whose world she no longer trusted, Natalia made a decision she felt was best for everyone involved. Without telling Sebastian, she traveled abroad and, in the aftermath of complicated circumstances, was convinced her twins wouldn't make it. Heartbroken and believing the babies had died shortly after birth, she never spoke of it to anyone. It became her private burden. The final divorce hearing was a sterile, hollow procedure. The judge ratified the terms, and just like that, the official ties that bound them were severed. Natalia walked away determined to start life anew, while Sebastian believed it was the end of a chapter he would never revisit. He threw himself even harder into Caldwell Innovations, burying the pain under acquisitions, expansions, and philanthropic endeavors. His heart hardened, and the name Natalia became a forbidden whisper in the corridors of his mind. Months slipped into years, and with each passing day, the ghosts of the past quieted, replaced by deals, success, and a cold, lonely sense of victory. For Sebastian, there was no reason to look back, only forward. He had no idea that the greatest twist of his life lay just a few miles and a few years away, waiting to unravel everything he thought he knew. 4 years had rolled by since the divorce, and Sebastian's empire was bigger than ever. He had negotiated major deals with the Department of Energy, dined with presidents, and brushed shoulders with tech titans like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. He even attended a philanthropic summit where Bill Gates and Warren Buffett were discussing strategies to eradicate polio worldwide. Sebastian's presence at these events was a testament to his influence. Despite the glitzy surface, emptiness gnawed at him. A mansion of glass felt cold without a family to fill its halls. In a bid to soothe that quiet ache, Sebastian engaged in countless charitable acts. He supported orphanages, sponsored educational programs, and built sustainable housing in impoverished regions. One crisp autumn morning, an event invitation arrived from the Sunshine Promise Orphanage, a small but compassionate organization in Queens, New York. They were hosting a gala to raise funds for expansions, hoping to accommodate more children in need. Moved by the earnestness of their request, Sebastian decided to attend. Unbeknownst to him, that choice would alter his life forever. The gala, held in an old refurbished library, radiated warmth and unity. Children performed a skit. Staff members shared heartfelt stories, and volunteers sold handcrafted souvenirs. Sebastian strode in with his polished smile, prepared to write a substantial check and disappear back into his world of boardrooms. Yet something about the orphanage enchanted him: the laughter of the children, the sincerity in their eyes. As the evening concluded, Sebastian struck up a conversation with Sister Bernadette, the orphanage's director. She had a gentle demeanor, but her eyes sparkled with cunning insight. She had seen philanthropic donors come and go, but there was something about Sebastian's posture, the longing behind his stoic smile, that intrigued her. Sensing a deeper philanthropic impulse, she subtly suggested he visit the orphanage more often. Perhaps he could sponsor a few children personally, give them access to the best education, or help them build a future. Reluctant at first, he was, after all, a man who believed money solved problems quickly. Sebastian agreed to tour the orphanage that same week. On the day of his visit, the sun filtered through dusty windows, illuminating rows of bunk beds and colorful drawings taped to the walls. He was introduced to many children, each with a story that tugged at his guarded heart. Then he came upon the twins, a boy and a girl, each with bright brown eyes and mischievous smiles. They were introduced as Tristan and Talia, inseparable siblings brimming with curiosity. Despite the hardships of orphanage life, they exuded a playful energy that made Sebastian's heart lurch. He couldn't fathom why he felt such an immediate, profound connection to these children. His life had always been about logic and strategy, yet a mysterious emotional undercurrent pulled him closer. A swirl of questions threatened his composure. Why did these two small faces make him feel as if he'd known them forever? Sister Bernadette recounted a sparse but heartbreaking story. The twins had been left at the orphanage as babies, with no documentation or clue about their origin. The only item found with them was a delicate silver locket, broken in two halves, each child clutching a piece. Sebastian stared at the locket for a long moment, a strange ripple of memory dancing on the edges of his consciousness. He couldn't pin down why it looked vaguely familiar. On the drive home, Sebastian was quiet, clenching that sense of recognition like a fragile treasure. He told himself that it was only empathy. Perhaps he simply felt protective of these children, given his own lonely upbringing. And yet, a silent whisper at the back of his mind insisted there was more to this bond. The question that haunted him was whether he had the courage to find out. In the weeks that followed, Sebastian found his thoughts drifting more frequently to Tristan and Talia. He tried to quell the uncharacteristic impulse by diving into his work, navigating the acquisition of a nascent biotech startup, finalizing new offices in Berlin, and preparing to launch a philanthropic initiative with Mackenzie Scott. Yet no high-stakes negotiation or glitzy philanthropic event could dispel the memories of those two smiling faces. He returned to the orphanage several times under the guise of overseeing a new sponsorship program. The truth, however, was more personal. He wanted to see Tristan and Talia again. Each visit forged a deeper bond. They'd greet him with excited chatter about the day's events, piano lessons, soccer in the yard, or simply how the clouds in the sky resembled dancing elephants. Their imaginative world was a stark contrast to Sebastian's data-driven universe, and he relished the moments he spent in their realm of wonder. Over time, the children grew to trust him, regarding him not as a distant benefactor, but as a friend and confidant. Sister Bernadette could sense the mutual attachment building, how Sebastian's stern gaze softened when Talia tugged at his sleeve to show him a drawing, or how Tristan's laughter rippled through the hallways whenever Sebastian attempted to kick a soccer ball around, inevitably embarrassing himself. It was a side of Sebastian she suspected he rarely allowed to surface. Eventually, she pulled him aside to ask a bold question. "Have you considered adoption, Mr. Caldwell?" The suggestion sparked an internal battle. He had never seriously considered fatherhood. He'd decided long ago that his life was too hectic, too complicated for the responsibilities of raising children. Could he possibly be a parent, especially to children who had already endured so much loss? And yet, every day without them felt suddenly hollow. The notion of returning to his expansive penthouse, a silent world of gleaming marble floors and automated lights, became increasingly unappealing. He realized he wanted them in his life, wanted to guide them, protect them, give them the opportunities he himself had never had as a child. Most surprising of all was the sense that he was already irrevocably attached. After long, sleepless nights, Sebastian made the decision to adopt Tristan and Talia. Legal procedures began swiftly. His status and financial clout expedited the process, but Sister Bernadette and the adoption board took care to ensure it was genuine love that drove him, not mere philanthropy or vanity. Sebastian was resolute, attending mandatory parenting workshops, quietly observing from the back row so as not to attract attention, and completing the required psychological evaluations. During this period, the twins had no idea their beloved Mr. Caldwell was about to become their father. Sebastian wanted to be absolutely sure everything was in place before revealing the news. A swirl of elation and anxiety coursed through him. Would they truly accept him as their dad? Could he fill the emotional vacuum they'd carried since infancy? Finally, the adoption was approved. On the day he broke the news to the twins, they were gathered in the orphanage's small auditorium, practicing a song with other children. When Sebastian gently pulled them aside, Tristan's grin faltered, and Talia's curious eyes widened, their faces lit with cautious hope as he explained he wanted them to come home with him forever. It felt as though time stood still when their uncertain gazes met his. When at last Talia rushed into his arms, tears spilling down her cheeks, Tristan soon followed. Sebastian, who rarely displayed emotion, found himself crying with them. That evening, Sister Bernadette discreetly handed Sebastian the broken locket that had accompanied the twins. "We always hoped someone might recognize it," she said softly, "but after so many years, no one came forward." Sebastian accepted it with trembling hands, thanking her and promising to cherish it. Little did he know that this small, tarnished artifact held the key to a secret that could upend everything he believed. When Sebastian brought Tristan and Talia to his penthouse overlooking Central Park, he realized how much had changed in his life. Only a few months prior, his home had resembled a sterile showroom, polished surfaces, minimalistic decor, and an unsettling quiet. Now, the walls echoed with laughter and playful banter. The aroma of popcorn and crayons replaced the sterile scent of pine cleaning products, and the once cold marble floors were covered in plush rugs and strewn with toys. Tristan was enthralled by the massive kitchen with its futuristic appliances, while Talia became fascinated by the floor-to-ceiling windows and the breathtaking city skyline. At dinner, Sebastian watched with an amused smile as they marveled at every dish the private chef prepared. They had never tasted sushi before, nor had they savored fancy desserts with gold leaf garnish. It was a joy and a responsibility he never imagined himself undertaking. Still, there were challenges. Talia occasionally woke from nightmares, clinging to Sebastian for reassurance. Tristan, strong-willed and protective of his sister, sometimes acted out, testing boundaries. Sebastian learned to navigate meltdowns and bedtime routines, discovered the power of bedtime stories, and recognized that no boardroom negotiation could rival the complexity of a child's emotional needs. Amid these domestic adjustments, life at Caldwell Innovations carried on. Sebastian allocated more responsibilities to his senior executives, which raised eyebrows. Some whispered that fatherhood had softened their formidable CEO. Others speculated that personal distractions might weaken his capacity to lead. Sebastian chose not to engage with the rumors. He was too focused on being present for Tristan and Talia, making sure their transition into their new world was as smooth as possible. It was during one of these nights, after putting the twins to bed, that he took out the broken locket. He studied it closely, 2 halves, each with an engraved initial. The piece Talia held had an S etched on the inside. Tristan's piece bore an N. He tried to recall if he'd ever seen anything like it before. It felt oddly familiar, like a long-forgotten memory dancing just beyond his reach. Sebastian even hired an antiques expert to examine the locket. She noted it was crafted from sterling silver and likely custom-made. The style suggested it could be linked to a special event, perhaps a wedding or the birth of a child. She couldn't, however, determine who might have commissioned it without more context. Frustrated, Sebastian dismissed the puzzle as coincidence. After all, many people had initials like S and N. He placed the 2 halves in a small velvet box, locked it away in a drawer, and turned his focus back to his new role as a father. For a while, life began to settle into a pleasant rhythm. Weekdays were filled with normal routines, breakfast together before Sebastian went to the office, and lively dinners where the twins recounted their day at school. They giggled whenever Sebastian tried to help with art projects, clearly more comfortable with numbers and spreadsheets than colored pencils and construction paper. Weekends were for exploring museums, strolling through Central Park, and visiting toy stores that left the twins wide-eyed with wonder. These were moments of profound contentment for Sebastian, moments he never expected to have in his lifetime. His heart, once as guarded as a high-security vault, cracked open a little more each day. If only he had known that fate was quietly weaving threads of the past back into his life, preparing to unravel a truth he was utterly unprepared to face. It was a day like any other at Caldwell Innovations. Sebastian was leading a strategy meeting for a groundbreaking renewable energy project, an initiative that might revolutionize the way cities powered their grids. The press had gotten wind of it, and speculation about Caldwell's next big move was rampant. But just as the meeting concluded, Sebastian's executive assistant, Marisol, discreetly handed him a note. "Natalia Caldwell is in the lobby, requesting to see you." Sebastian felt his stomach lurch. In all these years, Natalia had never reached out. The finality of their divorce had been mutual, even if it still left scars. Why was she here now? A sudden surge of panic fluttered through him. He glanced at his phone, half expecting missed calls or texts. Nothing. He instructed Marisol to escort Natalia to a private conference room where he joined her a few minutes later. Stepping inside, he saw the woman who had once been the love of his life. She looked different, older, of course, her face etched with lines of experience and sorrow. Yet there was a familiar grace in the way she held herself, and a swirl of old emotions stirred in the pit of his stomach. For a moment, they just stared at each other, unsure how to bridge the chasm time had carved. Then Natalia cleared her throat. "I'm sorry for dropping by unannounced. I didn't know how else to do this." 1,000 questions raced through Sebastian's mind. Was she here to rekindle something? Seek closure, ask for money? Despite everything, he approached her with caution and a measure of empathy. "It's been a long time," he said quietly. gesturing for her to sit. "What can I do for you?" She sank into a leather chair, her fingers trembling slightly. "I need to tell you something," she said, struggling to steady her voice. "It's about the children we lost, Sebastian." She paused, letting the words settle like thunder in the silent room. His heart pounded. The mention of those children reopened a wound he had tried to pretend never existed. "I'm listening," he said, keeping his voice level. Natalia recounted her side of the story from years ago. She had discovered her pregnancy shortly before the final divorce hearing, but had decided not to share the news due to the toxic atmosphere between them. She'd traveled abroad in hopes of sorting out her life. Complications arose during childbirth. The doctor had informed her the twins were unlikely to survive. She was led to believe they had passed away. Consumed by grief, Natalia never revealed any of it upon returning, certain that the news would serve no purpose but to open old wounds. Only recently did she discover that the twins might not have died, that a bureaucratic confusion in the hospital had led to a tragic mix-up. She'd spent months tracking down records, speaking to staff, and following any lead. Every clue suggested the babies had somehow ended up in the care of an orphanage in New York City. The twisted irony was impossible to ignore. Sebastian felt ice run through his veins. He thought of Tristan and Talia, of how they had been discovered at Sunshine Promise Orphanage with no known parents. He remembered the strange familiarity of the broken locket. Was it possible? Were the S and N actually their own initials? The magnitude of this revelation crashed over him, leaving him reeling. "You're saying our children might still be alive?" he whispered, struggling to keep composure. Natalia only nodded, eyes brimming with tears. The truth pressed against the edges of Sebastian's consciousness, both terrifying and exhilarating. He remembered the day he met Tristan and Talia, that inexplicable bond he felt. Could fate truly be this extraordinary? "What now?" Sebastian finally asked, voice shaking. Natalia swallowed hard. "I need your help, Sebastian. I want to find them. If they're ours, we need to make this right." She inhaled a ragged breath before continuing. "I still have a glimmer of hope that we could be a family again, in some way." Even in his state of shock, Sebastian's mind raced. He had to protect Tristan and Talia. They were already his adopted children. If Natalia's story was true, it would change everything. Their entire adoption might be nullified or complicated. His brain pounded with conflicting loyalties, torn between sympathy for Natalia's anguish and the need to shield the twins from chaos. He cleared his throat. "Let me make some inquiries. I'll get my legal team on this. But please, Natalia, give me a little time." She nodded, relief flooding her features. Before leaving, she placed a small piece of paper on the table. "Here are the hospital records I managed to get. Please call me." As soon as she was gone, Sebastian sank into the chair and let out a ragged breath. He removed his phone and stared at a photo of Tristan and Talia grinning at the zoo, arms flung around each other. His world was about to quake at its foundations, and in the next few days he would confront the truth that these children, his children, had been his all along. Sebastian wasted no time in launching a private investigation. He called in favors from well-connected contacts, including a pair of experienced detectives who specialized in tracing missing persons. He combed through hospital records in the foreign country where Natalia had given birth, cross-referencing details with the adoption papers from Sunshine Promise Orphanage. Every bit of data pointed to a single breathtaking conclusion. Tristan and Talia were indeed his biological children with Natalia. The day the final confirmation arrived, medical tests verifying their shared DNA, Sebastian sat alone in his office, numb. A swirl of emotions overtook him: joy that his children were alive, guilt that he had unknowingly abandoned them, and fear of what came next. He kept the knowledge to himself for a few days, grappling with how to break the news. Part of him felt betrayed that Natalia had never told him about her pregnancy. Another part understood the pain and confusion she must have endured. He also worried about the twins and how they would handle discovering their adoptive father was, in fact, their biological father, and that their mother was alive and wanting to see them. While Sebastian wrestled internally, Natalia began calling more frequently, eager for updates. He dodged her at first, fearing the avalanche of emotion that would follow. Finally, he arranged a meeting at a discreet coffee shop in Midtown Manhattan. There, with quiet resolve, he placed the DNA results before her. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "I knew it. I just knew." Though the moment carried the weight of a miracle, it was overshadowed by the complicated reality. Sebastian explained that he had already adopted Tristan and Talia, that they lived with him now as his children. Natalia looked stunned, the color draining from her face. The gravity of what that meant, years lost, the chance to see her babies grow, hit her like a sledgehammer. At the same time, a flicker of hope lit her eyes as she realized they had been safe and cared for all along. Sebastian laid out a plan. They would break the news to the twins carefully, with the help of a family therapist who could guide the emotional fallout. He insisted that Tristan and Talia's well-being took precedence over everything else. Natalia, overcome with gratitude and a yearning to see her children, agreed to follow his lead. He returned home that night, tucking the twins into bed as usual. As they drifted off, he studied their innocent faces, the soft rise and fall of their breathing. He couldn't fathom how close he had come to never knowing them. The idea shook him, reminding him how precarious life could be, how easily fate could keep loved ones apart. They were his children, always had been, and though they had all traversed a labyrinth of sorrow and mischance, destiny had finally guided them back together. Sebastian decided to enlist the help of Dr. Lorraine Maxwell, a renowned family therapist who had worked with some of the world's elite families in navigating delicate emotional matters. Her office was a cozy, book-lined space in a historic townhouse. On a cool Saturday morning, Sebastian took Tristan and Talia there, telling them they were going to meet a special counselor who would help them talk about their feelings, an arrangement that had been recommended as part of the adoption follow-up process. Natalia arrived separately, her heart pounding like a drum. She hadn't seen her children since the day they were born. Dr. Maxwell greeted everyone warmly, inviting Tristan and Talia to lounge on beanbags decorated with cartoon characters. The twins looked around curiously, oblivious to the emotional storm brewing among the adults. Dr. Maxwell began with a few simple exercises, asking the twins about school, friends, and what they liked about living with Sebastian. Their cheerful descriptions of family meals, homework sessions, and weekend outings painted a picture of a happy home life. Sebastian felt both relief and dread, knowing that what came next could reshape their perception forever. Eventually, Dr. Maxwell gently transitioned to the topic of family. She glanced at Sebastian, who cleared his throat, palms sweating. "Tristan, Talia," he began softly, "I have something very important to tell you. It's about who you really are and who I really am." The room fell silent. The twins' curious eyes flickered between the adults, sensing the gravity of the moment. In careful, measured words, Sebastian explained that they had been born to parents who loved them very much, but that there was confusion at the hospital, leading everyone to think they hadn't survived. He looked toward Natalia, who was already quietly crying. "This woman," he continued, voice breaking, "is Natalia. She is your mother, and I'm not just your adoptive dad, I'm your biological father too." For a moment, time froze. Tristan's face twisted in confusion, while Talia's lower lip quivered. They both glanced at Natalia, searching her eyes for confirmation. Through tears, Natalia whispered, "I'm so sorry, my babies. I never meant for us to be apart. Shock and a swirl of emotions flitted across Tristan's features: anger, disbelief, relief. Talia started to cry, burying her face in Sebastian's shirt. Dr. Maxwell guided them gently, encouraging them to express whatever they felt. Slowly, haltingly, Tristan asked questions. "Why didn't you come for us sooner? Did you not want us?" Natalia explained the horrible misunderstanding, her own devastation, how she had spent years believing they were gone. She told them how she discovered the truth only recently and how much she regretted every missed moment of their childhood. Talia trembled in Sebastian's arms, clinging to him as tears dampened his shirt. She mumbled she was afraid that if Natalia was her real mother, maybe they would have to leave Sebastian. Through choked words, Sebastian assured her nothing would change, that she was his daughter. Both parents emphasized that they loved Tristan and Talia more than life itself and only wanted them to be happy. Dr. Maxwell skillfully navigated the emotional waves, reminding everyone that trust would need to be built and that healing would be a journey, not an immediate destination. By the end of the session, Tristan and Talia were worn out, their young minds overwhelmed by the revelation that their family was bigger and more complicated than they had ever imagined. Outside, Natalia asked if she could hug them. Tristan hesitated, still processing the emotional shock, but allowed his mother a gentle embrace. Talia, feeling her own surge of empathy, cautiously wrapped her arms around Natalia as well. Sebastian looked on, tears threatening to spill, struck by the fragility of this moment, the first physical contact between mother and child in nearly a decade. They parted ways with promises to attend more therapy sessions and spend time together, slowly building a relationship. For Sebastian, it was both a victory and the beginning of a new challenge. He had reunited his children with the mother they had never known. Now, he had to figure out how all of them, past and present, could form a future that made sense. As the weeks progressed, Sebastian and Natalia worked closely with Dr. Maxwell to help Tristan and Talia adjust to their new reality. Family therapy sessions became a weekly fixture. The twins' emotional responses varied wildly. Some days they were excited to learn about Natalia and her life, while other days they felt betrayed and confused. In the midst of this emotional turbulence, Sebastian and Natalia found themselves spending more time together. What began as polite exchanges about the children's schedules evolved into longer conversations. They'd linger in the coffee shop after therapy sessions, discussing everything from how to soothe Talia's nightmares to Tristan's newly discovered talent in coding. He'd asked for a beginner's programming kit, determined to be like Dad. Inevitably, memories of their younger days seeped into their talks, fond recollections of late-night study sessions in grad school, the silly pranks they pulled on professors, and the intimate laughter that once bound them. With every shared memory, the tension between them softened. Old wounds didn't vanish, but the presence of their children offered a living testament to the love they once had. One evening, after the twins were asleep, Natalia dropped by Sebastian's penthouse to discuss therapy plans for the weekend. She was visibly fatigued, her posture slumped. Sebastian invited her in, offering a glass of wine, a simple courtesy, but one laden with unspoken history. They settled on the couch, the city lights shimmering through the towering windows. Natalia confessed how lost she felt. She had spent so many years mourning the loss of her children. Finding out they were alive after all this time brought immense joy, but also guilt and insecurity. She couldn't help but wonder if the twins would ever truly accept her. Sebastian placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, acknowledging his own fears whether he was a good father, if their children were getting the emotional stability they needed, and if they would ever fully forgive the unintentional abandonment they had both inflicted. Their eyes met, carrying more weight than any words could. In that electric moment, years peeled away, and they were young lovers again, entangled in the resonance of a bond that never fully severed. The glass of wine forgotten on the table, they leaned toward each other, a gentle kiss sparking on Natalia's lips. It was tentative at first, like testing a fragile bridge, but it deepened as the emotions they'd kept suppressed for so long flooded to the surface. When they finally pulled away, both looked embarrassed yet relieved. Whatever this was, it was real. The next morning they made no grand promises. They agreed to take things slowly for the children's sake. Yet they both felt a glimmer of possibility that perhaps love, long buried and battered by life's tragedies, could rise anew, just when it seemed life was inching toward a happy resolution. An unforeseen threat emerged. Damian Roth, a rival CEO whose company, Roth Tech, had lost major contracts to Caldwell Innovations, sensed an opportunity to exploit Sebastian's personal complexities. A cunning strategist, Damian scoured tabloids for any whiff of scandal that might tarnish Sebastian's pristine public image and loosen Caldwell Innovations' hold on key partnerships. Before long, rumors leaked about Sebastian's secret children and a long-lost ex-wife. Speculative headlines popped up, insinuating foul play in the adoption process. The tabloids questioned if Sebastian had used his influence to manipulate adoption laws. Whispers spread that Natalia might have been coerced into staying silent about the children, or that she'd sold custody rights for a hefty price. Though the rumors were baseless, they fed the media frenzy. Suddenly, paparazzi swarmed outside the children's school, and savage online commentary accused Sebastian of orchestrating a heartless scheme. Investors started getting jittery, suspecting the scandal might impact Caldwell Innovations' reputation. Sebastian's legal team acted swiftly, issuing statements refuting the rumors, but damage had already seeped in. Talia came home one afternoon sobbing because some classmates teased her, claiming she was bought by a billionaire. Tristan, furious and protective, nearly got into a fight. The children's emotional vulnerability grew, making therapy sessions even more critical. Natalia, too, struggled under the public spotlight, especially when tabloids dredged up her life abroad, twisting her decisions into salacious accusations. Past acquaintances reached out, some seeking hush money for invented tales. The onslaught was relentless. Sebastian and Natalia stood united, but the pressure weighed heavily, straining their renewed bond. Behind the scenes, Sebastian suspected Damian's involvement. He had encountered Roth's underhanded tactics before, though never this personal. Determined to protect his family, Sebastian directed his security team to unearth any direct links between Damian and the tabloids. Quietly, he also prepared a legal assault against Roth Tech, collecting evidence of corporate espionage to use if negotiations turned hostile. During a late-night strategy session in Sebastian's office, Natalia peered over documents that outlined the malicious rumors. "This is sick," she whispered, tears brimming. "All we wanted was a chance to be a family." Sebastian clenched his fists. "I won't let him destroy our lives," he vowed, fierce determination blazing in his eyes. Though they were cornered, Sebastian and Natalia resolved to stand together both for themselves and for Tristan and Talia. What none of them anticipated was that another figure, someone far closer than Damian Roth, also harbored secrets that threatened to shatter the fragile harmony they were building. As Sebastian's team dug deeper, alarming clues emerged from within Caldwell Innovations itself. Leaked emails hinted at an inside informant feeding personal and corporate data to the tabloids. Marisol, Sebastian's trusted executive assistant, uncovered irregularities in the scheduling of certain appointments and unexplained logins to Sebastian's personal files. Suspicion fell on Andrew Parker, one of Sebastian's senior executives, a man who had once been a staunch ally. Andrew was known for his ambition and for growing frustrated when Sebastian slowed his aggressive expansion plans after adopting the twins. He was also rumored to have personal ties to Roth Tech executives. Under interrogation, Andrew caved, admitting that he had slipped tidbits of information to a third party in exchange for a lucrative bribe and the promise of a top position at Rothtech. The revelation unleashed a storm of fury in Sebastian. He felt violated, betrayed by someone he had mentored. Andrew's motivations cut deep. It wasn't just corporate rivalry, it was personal envy. Andrew believed Sebastian's family obligations made him soft, threatening the company's global edge. In a twisted justification, he felt that if Sebastian's scandal escalated, the board might replace him, paving the way for a more ruthless leader, someone like Andrew. Sebastian fired Andrew on the spot and handed the evidence over to legal authorities. Meanwhile, the fiasco continued to overshadow their family life. Natalia found herself paralyzed by the constant media harassment. Tristan and Talia, though shielded as much as possible, couldn't escape hearing whispers. Anxiety crept into their daily existence. Desperate for a respite, Sebastian decided to take the twins and Natalia on a weekend getaway to his lakeside villa in upstate New York. They needed a safe haven, a place to heal and recalibrate. The sprawling property offered serene views, surrounded by towering pines and the tranquil waters of Lake Champlain. In this peaceful retreat, the tension gradually eased. The children splashed in the lake, chased frogs by the water's edge, and roasted marshmallows around a bonfire at dusk. Natalia and Sebastian found comfort in the simplicity of family time, teaching the twins how to fish, recounting silly childhood stories, and relishing the star-studded sky above. One night, as the fire crackled and the children drifted off to sleep, Sebastian and Natalia curled up on a bench near the lake. Moonlight shimmered on the water. Their hands met in a silent pledge of solidarity. "No more secrets," Natalia said softly, voice tinged with remorse for everything that had been hidden. Sebastian nodded. "Never again." In that moment, it felt like the calm after a storm, a chance to rebuild. Little did they know, the final waves of turmoil had yet to crash upon them. Damaging forces still lurked, waiting to upend the fragile foundation they were painstakingly piecing together. When news broke that Caldwell Innovations would host an exclusive unveiling of its newest clean energy tech at the Manhattan Green Summit, the entire city's attention turned towards Sebastian Caldwell once more. In the months since the sensational scandal over his twins' parentage, public interest in both his professional feats and private life had soared to dizzying heights. The summit promised not only a chance for business leaders to witness Caldwell Innovations' latest breakthroughs, but also an opportunity for the media to corner Sebastian with fresh, probing questions. This time, however, Sebastian was determined to confront the rumors head-on. Supported by his executive team, he painstakingly prepared a keynote speech designed to highlight his company's revolutionary solar grid technology. Yet, beneath the veneer of corporate ambition, he quietly braced for the personal onslaught, knowing that the press was hungry for any slip-up or sensational detail about his newly discovered children. On the morning of the summit, a light rain tapped against the windows of Sebastian's penthouse. The gentle drizzle mirrored his own nerves. While he dressed in a sharp navy blue suit, Tristan and Talia scampered around the living room, excited to see their father perform on the big stage. Natalia, holding a steaming cup of coffee, watched the children with a wistful smile. She'd moved in a few weeks earlier, yet every day still felt like a new beginning for all of them. Sebastian's PR advisor, Margot Pine, arrived at the penthouse to help finalize talking points and to review the day's schedule. Her typically composed demeanor looked a bit more rigid, as if bracing for battle. "The press is still swirling with allegations about the adoption," she said bluntly. "They'll throw barbs. We need to anticipate every angle." "I'm ready," Sebastian replied, though his somber gaze betrayed his unease. "But I am not hiding my children. Let them see who we really are, a family that's trying to heal." Natalia offered him a grateful glance. The entire situation had been a gauntlet. Paparazzi outside the children's school, tabloids running half-truths about medical mix-ups abroad, and vicious insinuations that Sebastian had bent the law to adopt Tristan and Talia. Public suspicion, fanned by his rivals and fueled by Andrew Parker's betrayal, thrived on drama. But Sebastian refused to shield himself behind carefully prepared corporate statements any longer. Sensing the significance of the moment, a procession of VIPs approached to greet Sebastian. Among them were clean energy advocates, investors, even a prominent senator who was rumored to be considering a presidential bid. They all wanted FaceTime with the man of the hour. For a while, Sebastian managed to talk policy and renewable energy strategy without broaching his personal life. But he felt the unspoken undercurrent in every handshake and polite inquiry. Is this the same Sebastian Caldwell at the center of that epic scandal? Lingering on the outskirts of the crowd stood a faction of less friendly faces. Whispers circulated that some of these business leaders had ties to Damien Roth and Roth Tech. A slender, silver-haired man in a crisp suit approached. Sebastian recognized him as Lincoln Miles, a major investor who'd recently pulled funding from one of Caldwell Innovations' subsidiaries. Lincoln's gaze flicked from Sebastian's face to Natalia's, then to the twins across the room. "Brave of you to bring your family," Lincoln said, voice dripping with condescension. "Given all the chatter in the tabloids, I'd have expected them tucked away for their own protection." Sebastian forced a polite smile. "I have nothing to hide," he said, his tone measured but firm. The tension was palpable. Natalia's hand closed around Sebastian's arm, a silent reminder to stay calm. Lincoln offered a patronizing nod and excused himself to explore the exhibits. "That man is vile," Natalia muttered under her breath. Sebastian sighed, scanning the room for Margot Pine. They still had about an hour before his keynote. He caught sight of Tristan and Talia playing with a VR exhibit that illustrated how solar panels interact with city power grids. The kid's fascination reminded him why he was doing all this, why he had to stand strong. Before heading backstage, Sebastian and Natalia found a quiet lounge area to sit with the twins. Talia crawled onto Sebastian's lap, excitedly babbling about the VR headsets. Tristan, more reserved, clicked through photos on Natalia's phone of the exhibit. The closeness between them was a testament to how far they'd come as a family. "I'm a bit nervous, Dad," Talia confessed softly. "There are so many people, and they look at us like we're weird." Her innocent words tore at Sebastian's heart. "You're not weird, sweetheart," he said, pressing a gentle kiss to her temple. "You have every right to be here. You're part of this family, and this is our world as much as anyone else's." Natalia smoothed Talia's hair. "We'll stick together, okay?" she added gently. Tristan held his mother's gaze for a moment, then asked in a small voice, "Are they going to say mean things about us again? Like that we aren't Dad's real kids?" Sebastian's breath caught. "Tristan, you are my children, in every sense. Don't let anyone, even a crowd of reporters, make you doubt that." Warmth glowed in Natalia's eyes. She nodded in agreement. "We know the truth. That's what matters." As the keynote approached, Sebastian handed the twins off to a trusted bodyguard and led Natalia toward the backstage area. The corridor behind the main auditorium buzzed with last-minute preparations. Technicians tested microphones, event staff arranged signage, and camera crews practiced angles for the live broadcast. A subtle undercurrent of tension hovered in the air. Everyone knew this keynote would be more than just another corporate presentation. Marisol, Sebastian's executive assistant, stepped forward, clutching a tablet. "We've got an unexpected hiccup, Mr. Caldwell," she whispered. A freelance journalist from The People's Examiner purchased a seat in the audience. "Word on the floor is that he's determined to confront you about the adoption scandal. He's known for sensationalist ambushes, so be prepared." Sebastian's jaw set. The People's Examiner was notorious for screaming headlines and fabricated exposes. If there was a single person who could disrupt the keynote, it was their lead field reporter, Oscar Durant, an infamous tabloid prowler. Natalia shot Sebastian a worried look. "You can't avoid him forever. Once you're on that stage, you're fair game." "I know," he replied, forcing a steadying exhale, "but I won't let him turn this summit into a personal witch hunt." They exchanged a silent understanding, a vow of unity. Then Sebastian stepped away to queue up for his introduction, giving Natalia's hand a small squeeze before leaving her by the wings. Then he spotted the man who must have been Oscar Durant. Mid-40s, disheveled hair, an air of predatory excitement clung to him like a second skin. His hand shot up next, and before the event moderator could move to a safer query, Durant stood, brandishing his press credentials like a badge of honor. "Mr. Caldwell," Durant's voice boomed, cutting through the carefully choreographed environment. "Oscar Durant, the People's Examiner. I have a question that's on everyone's minds. Why should investors or the public trust the ethics of your company when you've orchestrated one of the biggest adoption cover-ups in recent memory?" A hush fell, audience members exchanging looks of anticipation and disbelief. Sebastian felt the weight of every camera, every microphone, zooming in on him. He glanced briefly at Natalia, who was perched at the edge of her seat in the front row, tension etched in her features. Tristan and Talia sat beside her, eyes wide. Durant pressed on, fueling the confrontation. "Don't you think you owe the world an explanation for how you adopted twins who surprise turned out to be your biological children? Aren't you guilty of manipulating the system and your ex-wife to create a convenient family image?" Sebastian's heart hammered in his chest. He inhaled deeply, letting the tension settle. A fleeting memory flashed through his mind, the children's first day in his penthouse, Natalia's tears when they reunited with the twins, the heartbreak they'd endured. He walked to the edge of the stage, arms at his sides, face resolute. "Mr. Durant," he began, voice firm but devoid of anger, "I'm aware that my personal life has become fodder for tabloid speculation. However, I won't tolerate the spread of falsehoods, especially when they concern my children." A murmur swept through the auditorium. Durant folded his arms as if daring Sebastian to continue. Sebastian glanced at the row where Natalia and the twins sat. "Let me be perfectly clear," he said. "The adoption was valid and legal in every sense. At the time, I had no idea the children shared my DNA. They were living in an orphanage, believed to be abandoned. It was only after the adoption that we discovered, through heartbreaking medical records and DNA evidence, that they were biologically mine and that my ex-wife Natalia had been led to believe our twins had died at birth." Natalia looked down, her eyes brimming with tears, but she nodded in support. Sebastian went on, unwavering. "This entire situation has been a roller coaster for my family. We've only recently come together, trying to give Tristan and Talia the love and stability they've always deserved. These are the facts, no cover-up, no manipulation." Oscar Durant opened his mouth to retort, but Sebastian raised a hand, commanding the crowd's silence. "In fact," Sebastian continued, "if you're looking for unethical behavior, you might want to question those who've stoked the flames of this rumor mill. My legal team is currently pursuing leads tying certain individuals to corporate espionage and malicious defamation. We will seek justice for what they've done to my family." A wave of applause broke out, from both supporters and those who, despite any lingering doubts, respected the directness of his answer. Durant's face reddened with frustration. Trying to regain control of the narrative, he shouted over the applause, "So you deny any wrongdoing in how you—" "I have denied nothing," Sebastian cut in, voice amplified by the microphone. "I've explained the truth. If you wish to question my ethics, be my guest so long as you base it on fact, not the gossip rags that profit from tearing families apart. In that moment, it felt as though the entire summit collectively held its breath. Durant, unsure how to proceed, sank back into his seat. The tension in the room was palpable, each second stretching until, finally, the event moderator stepped in. "Thank you, Mr. Durant," she said crisply, turning the focus to a more measured question about the environmental impact of Caldwell's new solar technology. Sebastian fielded the remaining queries with a renewed sense of conviction. Even as he explained wattage capabilities and ROI for potential investors, his gaze would occasionally drift to Natalia and the twins. Talia offered him a small, brave smile. Tristan, a bit overwhelmed, stared at his father with a mixture of pride and anxiety. Natalia mouthed silent words of encouragement, "I love you." When the session finally concluded, applause erupted, this time laced with genuine respect. Sebastian thanked the audience and descended from the stage. Instantly, a crowd gathered: journalists, investors, environmentalists, all eager to speak with him. Security kept the throng at bay, and Marisol guided him forward. Natalia came up beside him, placing a trembling hand on his shoulder. "You were amazing," she breathed, tears shining in her eyes. "I was so afraid for you, for all of us." He wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. "I just told the truth," he said simply, "and I'd do it again, 1,000 times, to protect our kids." Tristan and Talia ran over, threading between parted bodies to reach their parents. "Dad, you were like a superhero out there," Tristan said breathlessly, relief evident in his voice. Talia nodded vigorously. "Yes, the bad guy tried to scare you, but you didn't even flinch." Sebastian knelt, hugging them both. "Nobody will scare us if we stand together," he whispered. By late afternoon, the summit wound down, and Sebastian's security detail escorted the family to a private lounge to decompress. Tristan and Talia flopped onto a plush sofa, exhaustion finally catching up to them. Natalia sipped a cold bottle of water, still shaken from the morning's tension. "You were so strong up there," Natalia said, gazing at Sebastian with a mixture of relief and admiration. "I kept thinking about how, years ago, you would have shut out the entire world at the slightest mention of personal drama. But today—" Her voice trailed off, tears threatening to escape. He took her hand in his, stroking it gently. "Fatherhood changes a man," he whispered, "and losing you once taught me that I can't run from what I feel. I'm done hiding." Natalia's lip trembled. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his. They stayed there a moment, breathing in unison, lost to the bustling staff and security teams swirling around them. From the corner of his eye, Sebastian saw Talia curl into Tristan, whispering something. They were safe for once. They looked content despite the swirling storm of attention. He realized that telling the truth on stage wasn't just about clearing his name, it was about showing his children the courage of standing by one's convictions, even under the most hostile scrutiny. Before they left the venue, Margot Pine approached with news. "We've had an outpouring of support on social media. Many are commending your honesty. Even some big-name media figures are coming out against the tabloids' tactics." She exhaled, relieved. "It seems you might have come out of this stronger than ever." Sebastian nodded, a small smile forming. "I'm not after popularity points, but if it helps calm the storm around my kids, I'll welcome it." Margot gave him a respectful nod and hurried away to finalize post-event logistics. As the dust settled, life found a more peaceful rhythm. The tabloids, starved of new fodder, gradually moved on to other scandals. Damien Roth faced legal trouble for conspiracy and corporate espionage, tarnishing Rothtech's reputation. Andrew Parker, exposed for his betrayal, vanished from the business scene entirely. Caldwell Innovations regained its footing, forging ahead with ambitious projects that spanned clean energy, biotech, and humanitarian programs. At home, Tristan and Talia grew more confident with each passing day. Therapy sessions continued, but the children's anxieties steadily receded. Their feelings toward Natalia evolved from wariness to cautious affection and eventually into genuine love. While the twins recognized Sebastian as the father who raised them, they no longer doubted Natalia's sincerity. Slowly, a true family dynamic formed, a patchwork quilt stitched from the cloth of broken years and new beginnings. Natalia and Sebastian navigated their rekindled relationship with care. They took the children to counseling sessions that focused on blending families. Over time, Sebastian proposed that Natalia move in with them, turning the spacious penthouse into a warm, bustling home. Though hesitant at first, worried about rushing the children, Natalia agreed when she saw how excited Tristan and Talia were at the idea of living with both parents together. One autumn evening, they all gathered in the living room to celebrate Talia and Tristan's birthdays. Sebastian arranged for a small party, just them, Sister Bernadette from the orphanage, and a few close friends. As they sang happy birthday, candles flickering in the twins' eyes, Natalia leaned her head on Sebastian's shoulder. They exchanged a smile that spoke volumes, of sorrow endured, of hope rediscovered, of a future they never expected to have. After the cake was cut and presents unwrapped, Sebastian unveiled one final surprise. He had the broken locket restored. Now, instead of separate halves, it was a complete piece, engraved with the initials SNT and T for Sebastian, Natalia, Tristan, and Talia. With trembling hands, the twins held the locket, tears shining in their eyes. The symbol of their fragmented past now stood as a testament to a family reunited. No one could say what tomorrow would bring, but as they huddled together in a group hug, they felt an unbreakable bond. They had weathered scandal, heartbreak, and betrayal, forging a unity so strong that no outside force could truly tear it apart. In that moment, the future gleamed with promise. Thank you for joining us on this remarkable journey, a tale of heartbreak and resilience, of family lost and found, of impossible twists that speak to the unpredictable nature of fate. Sebastian, Natalia, Tristan, and Talia are proof that even when life's darkest storms sweep away everything we hold dear, love and truth can guide us back to shore. Their story teaches us that courage isn't just about personal ambition, but about standing up for the people who matter most, no matter the cost. If this epic saga of betrayal, redemption, and the unbreakable bonds of family touched your heart, please show your support by liking this video, sharing it with friends who appreciate a powerful story, and subscribing to our channel for more captivating tales. Together, let's celebrate the resilience of the human spirit, and remember that, in the end, love can truly conquer all.